so often we're operating on autopilot that we then are reacting to stimuli rather than being proactive in choosing a path because you start out with this is how it's going to go, and then along the way you're going to encounter turbulence. That's just the reality of life. And I think if we all look back on our lives, we rarely get from point A to point B in a straight line, right? We always take a meandering path. So like have a point, have a plan, have a destination, have a vision, but then be open to what comes up along the way.
Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Amuse Bouche Today's episode, all about leadership, little bites of things that you could take away with you to help you be a better leader, to help you build a stronger business, and all kinds of other things. So today we are joined by someone who's actually been on this before with me. This is Anthony Englert, and Anthony is a wealth advisor, but Anthony is so much more than that. So I wanted to have him on today. And as I was just telling Anthony, we were going to talk about one thing, but I switched gears extremely fast just because of all that is happening in the world and in this and how it's impacting this country. And I just wanted to talk about it today in the context of, as leaders, what we can do right now with all that is happening.
Mm.
So, Anthony, just before we get started, just tell us a little bit about what you do, just
Mm.
in case somebody didn't catch the
Sure.
podcast episode and the Amuse Bouche we did before. So, tell us a little bit about what you do so everybody who's watching knows.
Thank you, Teresa. It's great to be here. So we work with entrepreneurs to build wealth through their business because that's their greatest asset. And these are the people that are going to change the world, right? So they deserve to have the most wealth, the most resources in order to be able to do the most and make the biggest impact. So we help people strategize and think through how to monetize that asset up into an exit. And that doesn't necessarily mean always selling out. There's lots of different ways to exit. And then post exit, once they now have new liquid wealth, then how to manage that to create their legacy, right? Because the point of wealth is not all about accumulation; it's about activation. It's about giving you the
Mm.
resources to do whatever comes next. So we help with both sides of the journey.
So, as you were just explaining, it just reminded me
Mm.
the one thing that you explain when you talk to people about what you guys do, and
Hmm.
I'm in your group,
Hmm.
and the one thing that you've explained it a couple times, and I like the way that you talk about it. So, if you could kind of just simply lay it out, the difference between building a lifestyle
Mm.
business and building a legacy business, because I think that's important for people to understand,
Yeah.
as they're, growing a business, as they're scaling a business and deciding what they're going to do next. So talk a little bit
You bet.
about the difference between the two.
So I think beginning with the end in mind is so important. And the difference between them, it's not a choice about which is better than the other. It's just about the clarity of what you're building. So a lifestyle business is something that is going to primarily just convert income into your bank account, and it's going to be highly dependent upon you and rely upon you. A legacy business is about something that's going to outlast you, outlive you, and therefore you're purposely designing it to be independent of yourself. Doesn't mean you can't still show up and enjoy the work that you do inside of that container for as long as you choose to do it. But the kind of difference is the choice of independence. You could walk away from a legacy business. You can't walk away from a lifestyle business. And the analogy that we like to use is cars and airplanes. So
Mm.
the lifestyle business is like a car, easy for one person to operate. You bring along a few friends, it turns on a dime, low maintenance, etc. Whereas an airplane, like a legacy business, it requires redundant systems. You need two people to fly it. You got to file a flight plan. You got to know how much fuel that you're going to take with you in order to get to the destination. But once you're at cruising altitude, it's way more efficient, than any car. It can travel these really long distances. And so, again, it's not right or wrong. It doesn't matter if you're building a car or an airplane. The only time it's a problem is when we see an entrepreneur saying, "I'm going to get my car going 200 miles an hour, and then it's going to fly." And I
Mm.
don't care if you have a Ferrari, if it flies, it's not controlled, and you're just gonna crash. So it's just about having the foresight of what is the end goal here, and then that that is the lens through which you make every decision. And I've argued or discussed, I guess is probably a better word, that you can't really sit in the middle because every single decision is with the hat of I'm building this for simple efficiency, minimal process or structure in the case of a lifestyle business, or I'm designing a machine and I'm hiring people and I'm outsourcing the widget making, right?
Mhm.
And that's legacy. And so you can absolutely change your mind down the road, but I don't think you can live in this, well, I'm 1 foot in and 1 foot out, because
Mhm.
then how what with what frame do you make the choices? So
So one can, so you could start with one and go to the other.
yeah,
More than likely lifestyle to
yeah.
legacy.
Yes, yes. Um, yeah, it's pretty rare that you go the other direction, but
Yeah.
absolutely right. A simple example, a lifestyle business, maybe you're like a real estate agent or a dentist, right? You build up this practice of using your professional skill, and then at some point you say, I actually think I might like building the business more than doing the thing. So, as a dentist, maybe I still have to have my hands in somebody's mouth a few hours a week to keep my skills up, but I'm going to spend the other 30 hours a week building a business in multiple locations and hiring other dentists, or for example. Whereas, if we go the other direction, maybe you raise venture capital and you start building this great big app, and then it kind of falls apart and it turns out to not be the thing. I
Mm.
guess you could then pivot it and somehow get it back to a lifestyle business. But yeah, it's usually you're a legacy business from the start, or you grow and create the income, and then that income gives you, oh, I had no idea I could do this bigger thing. I now have frame and reference and perspective and resources, and now I'm going to convert it and make it a legacy business.
Gotcha. So I would imagine that most of the people that you work with have built the legacy business.
That's the pathway that they're on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Because a lot of the things that we're in a lifestyle business, really all you can do is save in tax advantaged ways, right? Like
Mhm.
max out a 401k, max out a SEP IRA, and uh, spend as much money as you can in through the business in order to minimize your tax burden.
Sure.
So, it's just there's not a lot of options available, even to an S corp owner. Um, the playbook is pretty thin. But when you switch over to a legacy business, you're a C corp, you're thinking about an exit someday. Now we've got to consider how taxes and insurance and investment accounts, what's the exit strategy wrapper going to be? Like, are you going to sell to private equity? Are you going to sell to a competitor, to friends, to family? Are you going to do it all at once? Are you going to do it in pieces? Is it going to be employees? There's tax ramifications to all of these. And so it's just about kind of sorting through that. And so, yes, somebody on the legacy path is going to have more complexity, and those are the people that we can help create the greatest leverage or results for.
Gotcha. And I know that, you and I have talked about this extensively, that there is a significant amount of people who own small businesses,
Hmm.
who are in that age bracket where they are either they have a succession plan or they know what they want to do because they're at that age where they want to go to that next phase,
Hmm.
retirement, or they want to start something new, or whatever it is, and they're determining what the next steps are. Now,
Yeah.
there are factors that go into determining what you're going to sell your business at, and one
Hmm.
of the factors is has to do with interest rates.
Mm.
Correct?
Yes.
There's many, but I know
There are many.
one of them, yes.
Yes.
And
Yes.
with all that is going on in the economy right now and all
Hmm.
that is going on in the world,
Hmm.
I have seen several interviews. I have seen people talking about things because there is so much uncertainty as far as what
Hmm.
the Fed is going to do with interest rates, what is happening because of, gas prices going up, what's
Hmm.
happening with costs and everything. So how do you see all of this impacting someone's decision as to, do I hang in here a little bit longer? Do I do something different right now
Hmm.
other than what I'm currently doing
Yeah.
because of all this? Because this could go on. I mean, who knows?
Sure.
Wars are uncertain.
Yeah.
The economy is uncertain. I mean, I don't care
Yeah.
how much people try and predict it. Our president is uncertain. So, can
I
you
think
just
it
tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are on this?
You bet. So first of all, I think it was Ben Franklin that said, "Death and taxes is all that's certain in this life,"
Yeah,
right? So, um,
exactly.
so I
And
I think
common sense isn't so common, I think he said.
yes,
But
yes,
anyway,
yes.
go
That's another
ahead.
great idiom of his. So there's not a um, I think it's a fallacy to think that you can project out the next 5 years and know exactly the optimal time to do everything.
Mm,
So the way that I would approach it is saying, well, what do I want? And so the first decision is, am I a lifestyle business that I'm just running for cash flow, or do I want to be a legacy business that has a potential exit? And then am I willing to make the moves, make the investments in the team, in the marketing, in the structure of the business to get my business to a point where it has the greatest potential sale value? And that is a journey that's typically a 2 to 3 year process at minimum. If we can get 5 years, we like it because it gives us the most options, but at least two to
sure.
three. And so if you're going to go on that 2 to 3 year journey, then, honestly, whatever the interest rates or the economy or the stock market or oil prices, whatever that's doing today is kind of immaterial, because you're just going to try and build the best possible business you can through the lens of whoever might buy it 2 years from now. And we can talk about how that influences, right? It's just like when you go to sell your house, you know, uh, some people just list it. Some people invest in putting in new carpet, fresh paint, new countertops to see if they can sell it for a higher price, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what we're doing here. We're crafting the business to not only just be a great business, a great home, but also to be beauties in the eye of the beholder, to make it attractive to whoever it is that you're trying to sell it to. So if we do that 2 years from now, and we get to that place where we feel like, okay, we've done all the stuff that we think we need to do and could do, and all the good stuff is in place, then we put it on the market. And if you like the price, then you sell it. And if you don't like the price, then maybe you do wait out. We do talk about what interest rates or oil or the economy or whatever, and we make a decision. Do we wait another 6 months? But you don't have that option. You don't have that decision point if you're waiting for the opportune moment, um,
Right.
be, because you have to build the business intentionally to be ready to exit. Let me give you another really quick example. A lot
Mm.
of founders will wear it as a badge of honor that they are so intrinsic to their business, right? Like, oh,
Mm.
we almost lost that really big account, that really big client, but I got on the phone and I saved the day. So that makes your ego feel good, but that's the kind of stuff that the buyer is going to go, well, I don't want to buy a business that's dependent upon you,
The founder.
amazing, talented founder, because if you're not here, well, what do I do as the buyer, right? And so a badge of pride for a founder is actually a lot of times a negative for a CEO or for the private
Sure.
equity buyer that's going to come in and buy the company.
No, absolutely. And I talk about that a lot with, the founder's bottleneck, because
Mm,
if they have to be involved in everything, and they want to exit the business, well, then what happens?
yeah,
So it's like, plus also, even in their business, just on a day-to-day operational thing, if the business is completely dependent on them and they don't have a team in place to take over things, again, they become the bottleneck
yep.
in decisions. They become the bottleneck in projects, and you're right, it becomes a hindrance for
And
growth.
and that's a great lens for we'll generally call all of that independence, right?
Yeah.
So if
Hmm.
you have a business that's independent from you as the owner, well, now you have the best of both worlds. You can show up and do the thing that you love, right? Like, say you just love sales, right? So maybe you still stay on the sales team, or you love working with the clients. So maybe you're still on the execution delivery team, or, whatever. That's your prerogative. You can't fire yourself if you don't want to. Um, but now you have the option that maybe I do want to go away for 3 months or 6 months on an extended trip with my family. Maybe I just don't like this anymore. God forbid, maybe I got sick and I got cancer or something and I need to step away from the business. These are all options available to you because the business is independent. And I'd
Hmm.
much rather be in that situation than, well, this is great. I make $500,000 a year being the heart and soul of this business, but if the business relies on me, then the business also dies with me. And if I
Yeah.
can't show up, now I also lose my income and my asset. So um, I try to convince everybody to consider, right, to really weigh the pros and cons. And 9 times out of 10, I don't know why you wouldn't want to become a legacy business.
Sure.
Um, I think you should play as big as you possibly can.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And having that longer lens, because I think what happens is what's happening right now with what we're dealing with, in with our economy and what's going on in the world. People look at it and they panic,
Mm,
and they watch. I was watching an interview this morning with someone I'm interviewing a little bit later, Dan Veroni, and he was being interviewed on the news, and the and the guy, before he brought him on, he said, if you watch CNN, it tells you one thing. They tell you to, that you should be looking at this, this, and this. And if you watch Fox News, they're telling you to panic about this, this, and this, and that,
hmm.
World War III is coming. And he's like, how do you sift through it all? So
Yeah.
I think, and this is one of the pieces of advice that you've always said is you got to have that longer lens. You
Hmm.
have to be able to look out and not function, and I say this in normal everyday business, not
Yeah.
function in current circumstance.
Yeah.
So I think it's important, and
Let,
to your point, you got to look out.
yeah, let me share an analogy that we use with our clients. Think about all of this like an airplane. So now think about an airplane taking off and you're watching that airplane. The trajectory as it goes to take off, if you just extrapolated that on for forever, you'd be like, oh my God, the plane's going to go to outer space, right? And conversely, if you saw an airplane coming into land and it's on the downward slope, you'd go, oh my God, it's going to crash. But airplanes, by and large, thousands of them take off and land every single day because there's adjustments on the flight plan, right? So it goes up for a bit and then it levels off and it travels and then it comes back down. And so I think that's a helpful frame for whatever's going on right now, whether we're in takeoff or landing mode. If we extrapolate that for forever, it's a really bad outcome. But
Yeah.
I think you have to be an eternal optimist and expect, or at least hope, that we're going to find a way through this crisis. And if you have that longer term lens, then hopefully you're not going to overreact to the the the, the minutia of the moment. And I'll also say, right, good headlines don't sell, bad headlines sell
Yeah.
newspapers. And so whether it's the left or the right media or anybody in between, it's very hard to turn on the television and get content that's not going to have a negative bias.
Sure.
And so I just share that as well because part of my job is trying to weed through these facts and
Mhm.
to find what are the things of hope that we can reasonably expect or hang on to kind of maybe balance out some of the fear mongering or saber rattling or the sky is falling kind of attitude that you're going to hear when you turn on any cable news channel.
So before I ask my next question, my husband, he always says you have to watch the BBC. Get the news from the BBC because it's going to be
Yep.
completely unbiased. So
Yeah. BBC and Bloomberg are probably the two most boring, and that's where you
yeah,
get the real news as opposed to the stories.
exactly,
News and stories are
exactly.
a little bit different.
So you said something that kind of relates to, at least I think it does, in my opinion. One, because you have five levers that you
Mhm.
talk about, that you work with your clients on. One of
Yeah.
them is vision.
Yes.
So when we're talking about having hope, and your job is to kind of sift through, and I know you do it from, investments and finance and planning, business planning
Hmm.
and strategy. So how can we really um, lean into that lever of vision,
Mm.
to and that having hope and sifting through everything like right now, what would be like some tips, like three tips that you would give somebody to
Ooh.
really lean into that?
Well, I think part of vision is naturally a long-term view, right?
Hmm.
Like no visionary starts a company today and expects and we're going public tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
The vision is this is where we're trying
One
to
can
get
hope.
to. Yeah, yeah. And so I think it's really about setting that frame of what do I want to get out of either the company I'm building or why am I turning on the television? Like what am I expecting to see? And so when you have that filter of what is it that I'm looking for, you know, so often we're operating on autopilot that we then are reacting to stimuli rather than being proactive in choosing a path. So that would be number one. Number two, I would say, uh, you know, Mike Tyson's old quote, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. Um, I think there's an element of that in vision as well, because you start out with this perfect, this is how it's going to go, and then along the way you're going to encounter turbulence. That's just the reality of life. In fact, I have a coach who challenged me. I said, the fastest line between 2 points is a straight line, right? Just kind of off the cuff, and he said, well, is it? And I think if we all look back on our lives, we rarely get from point A to point B in a straight line, right? We always take a meandering path. So
Mm,
I've another friend who has she uses the term meander with purpose. So like have a point, have a plan, have a destination, have a vision, but then be open to what comes up along the way. Um,
sure.
and then finally, if you know what's important to you, then it gives you the right filter for all the other stuff going on in the world, right? So if you were um, I'm trying to think of a good example. If you were a startup founder, or actually let's do your people, a Main Street business. If you were a
Mhm.
Main Street business, say you're like a beauty salon, or you're a restaurant, the news of the day is unsettling. Like, so I totally acknowledge that. But you have employees that show up every day to come
Mhm.
do their work who need a paycheck. And you need to keep doing your marketing. You need to keep running your operations. You need to keep your finances in order so that you can support and hold up all of these people and give them the chance for prosperity. And so, through that lens, what does what's happening on the other side of the world have to do with you? Right. And I know that's a little bit of an unfair question, because yes, oil prices are going to push up the cost of everything.
Cost
And
of food. Mhm.
yeah, yeah, absolutely everything. It's the one thing that taxes the entire economy, because everything at some point is touched by petroleum, whether it's actually made out of it, like most of our clothes, or just came on a truck or a boat. I joke that in the 90s they used to run those ads, cotton is the fabric of our lives. Now they should run the Oil Petroleum Association should run ads that oil is the fabric of our lives, because it truly is.
Scary
Um,
thing.
yeah, and so, yes, it does have a knockdown effect. Yes, it is going to impact you in some way, shape, or form. But what can you control about that? Right.
Right.
And so I would put 80% of my energy into worrying about what is in front of me, what I can control, the people's lives I can impact. And then I'll leave 20% for, okay, now what kind of planning do I need to do, because my input prices are going up because oil is going up? Or, I need to refinance this debt that I have on the business and interest rates are going up. And how's that going to impact? Like, yes, those are important questions, but um, I think too often we get so caught up in this kind of, panic, the sky is falling, this is how it's going to be forever, right? Like, my personal expectation and hope is that this whole matter in Iran concludes in a couple of weeks. And that's currently the way the markets are pricing. So while the news is selling World War III, the financial markets are expecting that because the price of oil is so high, that
Yeah.
we're going to have to basically withdraw in the next couple of weeks, banking on the fact that the White House is unwilling to tolerate a um, a recession, right,
Mhm.
caused
Mhm.
by high oil prices. So,
Sure.
uh, so I don't know. I went a lot of different places there,
No, no, no,
but
no.
hopefully
You're
that answered your
good.
question.
You're good. You're good. And you know what? As to your point, and what I was saying about you turn on the news. I mean, I get my news from other sources. I do not watch it on TV anymore unless we
Mm,
watch the BBC. But because you hear so much stuff and you're like, how do I sort through it all?
yeah,
Meanwhile, I'm just trying to make payroll.
yeah,
I'm just trying to get more people through my door, or I'm just trying, I want to build my business because, I'm 55, I'm 60, and I want to get these things going so
yeah,
that I can figure out, next steps. So it's good to have someone who can sift through everything,
mm,
which is why I like having you on, someone who can sift through and make sense out of stuff that like I might not necessarily know about, I as in the collective I, that
sure.
we don't necessarily have the knowledge about. But I want to know
Hmm.
because I want to know how it impacts me, and not only how it impacts me, but what can I do differently.
Well,
So
if I could just double click on that, I think that is the question. How is this going to impact me?
yeah.
And through that lens, how are higher oil prices going to impact me as an entrepreneur is a very intelligent question that we should talk about and we should think through. What we shouldn't talk about is, oh my gosh, did you see that oil is now trading at this a barrel? And oh, what does that mean for the stock market? And what does that, that I feel like is just stirring the pot for the ego's sake. But asking how's this going to impact me, that's an intelligent planning question to help strategize. Well, if this shock does persist and prices do stay higher, what does that mean to my margins? What does that mean to the next hire I'm making? What does that mean to my marketing budget, right? That's intelligent business planning.
Mm-hmm. And those are the things when you ask yourself that question. And if you are at that stage where you're planning, you're doing some exit planning, that's an important question to ask because that's going to lead you to what do I need to do now in my business
Hmm.
to make sure that my operations are resilient, to make sure that I have the right people in the right places, to make sure that my finances are in order and I know, I'm not taking large chunks of money out of my business. Like I'm
Hmm.
putting all these things in place and it comes from that one simple question. How does this impact me?
Yep.
you know just as on the flip side of it, what impact do I want to make to the people outside of my business or inside my
Hmm.
business? So it's a super super important question, super simple question. So, and I think most people aren't willing to ask themselves that.
Simple, but that doesn't mean easy.
No, no.
Because it's far easier for us as human beings to say, this is what I don't want, than to say, well, this is
Mhm.
what I actually do want. And so that's another dimension of this is creating the time and space to reflect on purpose and meaning and why. Because once you have food on the table and a roof over your head, now those are the questions that start to matter because you could do anything. And so what is it
Mhm.
that you actually want to do with the limited amount of time that we all have here on planet Earth?
Yeah. No, definitely. And I'll tell you what, it's that I forget who the author was, but it was what are you going to do with this one crazy beautiful life? It was
Mm,
Mary. I forget her last name, but yeah, I heard it in a yoga class, I don't know, like 20 years ago.
mm,
And ever since then, like it
it
comes
stuck with
up
you.
all the time. Yeah, stuck with me. So, well, Anthony, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. I mean, I'm telling you, we zoomed through that in 26 minutes, and that was like 3 hours worth of content.
Well,
So,
we talked
so,
fast.
yeah, so like so much value in this. So,
Thank you.
if you're watching live, you probably took lots of notes. If you're watching the recording, you're going to have to watch it like a couple times and listen a couple times because there was so much great information in here. So, like I said, I always love having you on, Anthony, because you bring such a great perspective to a topic that can be so complex and complicated
Mm,
and I mean, honestly, frightening for people, which has to do with wealth planning and finances and, all of that. Some people, I've heard people say, and I've said it myself in the past, I don't understand it. So I'm just
The,
going to
the,
put it over here.
the
So
ostrich move.
the ostrich move, yes. But you just have such a way of making it, you know, just just having it relate to everyone. So
Thank
it's
you.
one of the things that I absolutely appreciate about you.
If anyone is feeling the ostrich syndrome, I'll just say it's purposely designed that way, right? Sad truth is that the financial system isn't designed to be easy to follow and to make everybody financially literate. It's designed in pieces and fragments and silos. It's not that doesn't make it right, but that's the way it is. And I so love when we can break those silos down and help people think about things holistically, and they can actually see how all the puzzle pieces fit together. So, thank you. I really appreciate that. I received that.
Absolutely, absolutely. If I can get my words out. So tell everybody before we close out, tell everybody how they can find you on
Sure.
the internet.
So you can hit me up on LinkedIn, Anthony Englert, a pretty unique spelling, so I should be easy to find. Or you can check out our firm's website. It's alphaadvisory.com. It's spelled a little funny. It's ALFA advisory.com.
Awesome, awesome. All right, Anthony. Well, everyone, have a great rest of your afternoon. Stay safe, be well. Thank you for joining us, Anthony. And until
My pleasure.
next week, let's all take care of each other, especially right now, just a little bit more than we already do. All right. Bye for now.